Hi, a very warm welcome along to Sportsbet TV with me, Paul Alster, here with you, and looking forward to a really marvellous weekend's action in Britain and Ireland, and of course in France as well, where it is going to be Arc Day on Sunday. And I can give you a bit of a spoiler here that I have 5 races I'm highlighting this weekend, including the Prix de Triomphe, which will be the last of my 5, where I've got a big priced selection for you. Anyway, I'm delighted to say that last weekend was very successful indeed. Another good day in what was a cracking month, September. Mark's Choice, well, we tipped him at 9-2. He was all the rage. They backed him off the boards to 15-8. Then he came from last to first from a seemingly impossible position to win the sprint at his favourite track at Ripon, as anticipated and highlighted. So I hope you were on. We very nearly hit the target as well with Castle Star in the Middle Park Stakes. A very unlucky second, I thought, to the Richard Fahey trained winner. Jamie gave this one a great ride, just had to wait that half a second longer than ideal to get through the gap. When he got it, he came flying up the hill. I think that with a clear run, he would have won. And I really like Castle Star, but each way 12-1, not to be sniffed at. And then, of course, in the Cambridgeshire, well, one of our horses was a non-runner there, Breath Court. Earlier in the day, Velocidad was also a non-runner, so we only had 3 selections. And the last of them was Fastnet Crown, who ran a blinder, really, down the centre of the track, eventually finishing 5th in the Cambridgeshire at 40-1 recommended, more than good enough for the each-way money. And that is a very, very healthy place bet, as you well know. And I was delighted to see in the comments that a number of you did have the place treble, and as well as backing them in singles and doubles. So a very profitable weekend. And overall, September ended with a profit of £521 to the level £10 each way bets on all recommendations. And that is really good going, I'm sure you'll agree. It followed a profitable month in August with £113 ahead as well. So things going really well. And of course, those statistics don't take into account any doubles or trebles you might have done on the days where 2 or 3 hit the target for place and win bets. So a very good weekend last weekend. If you're just joining us for the first time, a warm welcome along. Do press the subscribe button just below this screen so you'll be able to stay in touch with all my selections. They're all free. As they also are at freebets.com on the YouTube channel, where I'm tipping horses more to the fore of the market, and you can check those out. And last week also a very good weekend there with 2 winners, a second and a third from my 4 selections at freebets last week. So that's all the housekeeping. We're all up to date, and let's move on with the first of my 5 selections for a very busy weekend. And I'm taking you first on Saturday to Ascot and the 205 race. Now, this is the 5 furlong Rouse Stakes. It's a listed race. Now, the forecast is good to soft ground, and 9 are set to run. But as I'm sure you know, according to the weather forecast, and if they are to be believed, most of Britain is going to get a bit of a soaking from Friday afternoon onwards into a very wet Saturday. So it could easily be soft or even worse at Ascot and at the other British meetings. Now, your forecast favourite is 3-1 shot Hurricane, trained by William Haggis, and this horse has been in tremendous form. He won the Portland Handicap over 5.5 furlongs at Doncaster middle of last month, and then he followed up winning a group race at Newbury, and he's really in very good form. He's rated 110. He goes well on the forecast, good to soft ground, but not so well as far as we've seen in the past on soft ground. So if the ground does deteriorate, he would be vulnerable. Tis Marvellous, another horse having a really good season. He was only beaten a length by Hurricane at Newbury in that group race, and is now £2 better off. The ground would not be a problem for Tis Marvellous. Now, one horse who will love the soft ground is the Carl Burt train Significantly, who was 4th in the Newbury race. And this one really loves soft and heavy ground, and won over course and distance at Royal Ascot in handicap company in June, and would be a very big danger to my selection if it does rain heavily. Now, we've also got a bit of an enigma horse here, Merzal, trained by Owen Burrows, who's the, of course, contracted trainer to the Shadwell estate horses of the late Hamdan Al Maktoum. Now, this Merzal was a very, very good 2-year-old last year, rated 111, but he hasn't been seen all year. He hasn't run this year. He's obviously had some sort of an issue. But remember, he won the Gimcrack Stakes last year, Group 2 at York, and he was a very good third in the Group 1 Middle Park Stakes. So if he's come back to himself and if he's overcome whatever has ailed him, you would be interested in him if there was a little bit of market support. So that will probably be the only real indication we'll know before the race whether Merzal still retains ability. But my choice here is a good old timer here, the 7-year-old DAKOTA Gold. And he's trained by Michael Dodds and is the mount of Connor Beasley. Now, Michael, as you know, is a tremendous trainer of sprinters, and this 7-year-old has won 13 times, many of them in very good company. And the significant points here are he's run 9 times on soft ground and he's won 7 of them. He's also run on good to soft ground 9 times and won 2 and been placed plenty. Now, he's not had his ideal ground for much of this season. Indeed, the last 2 runs were on good to firm, but previously he'd been second on good to soft ground to the smart Judicial in a listed race at Chester, and he seems to me to be just about as good as ever. The other thing about him is he's only visited Ascot once in his life at DAKOTA Gold, and that was when he won this very race 2 years ago in 2019, and he won it on soft ground, and he won it under regular rider who rides again on Saturday, Connor Beasley. So he has a lot going for him, does DAKOTA Gold, especially as he tends to run well in the autumn as well. He's going to hopefully have his ground. The more rain, the better. He'll stay the stiff 5 furlongs uphill, a previous winner of the race. And at the time of this recording, very early Friday lunchtime, he's 5-1 with all firms. So each way 3 places, 5-1. It looks a bit of a bet to nothing to me. DAKOTA Gold, Ascot 205. And then I'll take you on to the race after that at Ascot, the 240. The Group 3 Cumberland Lodge Stakes is over 1.5 miles. Now, there are 8 runners. Same comments apply about the ground. I won't repeat them. Hukum is the favourite, a horse who's done very well for Owen Burrows this season. He's the forecast 2-1 favourite, and he does go on testing ground. He's won 2 Group 3 races this term and was only just run out of it by the very talented Hamish on the all-weather a few weeks ago in the Group 3 September Stakes. And he would be a danger to all, Hookham, no doubt about it. But I'm not sure how much value there is in his price. Now, Roger Varian saddles one called Title, who ran a very good race in the Group 2 King Edward VII Stakes at Royal Ascot behind the smart Alenker, who is set to run in the Prix de Triomphe on Sunday. So that form is very good. And it was on heavy ground where he put out what was arguably just about his best performance. Last time out, he went to Doncaster in a very good handicap, and he won that off a mark of 103 very easily. So he seems to be improving. He's in form, and Title is a danger. There are plenty of them actually with chances in this race, but my choice is a horse called QUICKTHORN, who is trained by Hughie Morrison and is the mount of young Kieran Fallon. Now, this horse has course and distance form because he won the Duke of Edinburgh handicap at Royal Ascot this season in June. And he goes on this very testing ground, or hopefully what will be testing ground. Now, he did run poorly behind Hookham at York over 1.75 miles on good ground in July, but he bounced back after that to run an absolute blinder in the Ebor. You may remember he failed by just a head to beat the subsequent Irish St. Ledger winner, Sonny Boy Liston, the Johnny Murtagh trained runner, and that was a wonderful effort. And he's backed that up as well, show that there were no ill effects for that very hard race when winning 1.75 mile race at Salisbury last time on good ground. And in that race, he beat Berkshire Rocco, who of course was second in last year's St. Ledger. So he's got some really good form tied up with proper group horses. And he's actually rated £4 inferior to Hookham, but he's getting £3. So there really should be very little between them. And on that basis, and in the hope it does rain as much as possible, I think QUICKTHORN is value at the 11-2 offered each way at the time of this recording by Bet365. They are best odds at the time of this recording at 11-2. As always, shop around like buying anything, look in the market, check the odds, and the odds comparison sites, and give yourself a chance to get better odds than I'm seeing at the time of this recording, more than 24 hours ahead of racing. and also look around for the best terms that suit you, whether it's more places and a slightly lower price or fewer places and a bigger price. You make your decision, but I think 11-2 each way QUICKTHORN is a pretty solid bet. Now, my third choice on Saturdays over at Newmarket, we're at HQ on the Rowley Mile for the Group 1 Sun Chariot Stakes. And this is at 2:55 at Newmarket. It's over the mile, forecast good to soft ground, but it may get softer. There are 13 runners, and this race is an absolute cracker. I started studying this race, and when I looked up, more than an hour had passed, and it went in the blink of an eye, because really, of the 13 runners, I could fancy 10 of them. So there's a lot of horses here with chances. But the favourite is likely to be the terrific filly Snow Lantern, trained by Richard Hannon, who's around 5-2. She, of course, won the Falmouth Stakes at Newmarket on the July course in the summer on good to firm ground, but she was a very good third in the Sussex Stakes, remember, not getting a clear run behind Alcohol Free on soft ground, where she stayed on, and she just didn't get the run of the race, didn't quite pan out for her last time in France in the Group 1, won by the excellent Baid when she finished 4th. So she's going to be a danger as long as those hard races throughout the season haven't taken their toll. And that is a factor that could affect quite a few of the fillies in this race, because some of them have been on the go for a long, hard season. Now, Mother Earth is one, for example, for Aidan O'Brien. She is a terrific filly. She beat Saffron Beach by a length to win the 1,000 guineas at HQ in May. She's run 5 great races since then. She was third to Alcohol Free in the Coronation Stakes on heavy, second to Snow Lantern in the Falmouth. She won the Prix Rothschild in France, and then she was arguably, and most probably, a little bit unlucky when third to the horse I tipped, No Speak Alexander, in the Group 1 Matron Stakes a few weeks ago at Leopardstown. So she's back for more, is Mother Earth. And Saffron Beach, who was second to her in the 1,000 guineas, is back for Jane Chapel-Hyam. She went a bit AWOL during the summer when tried at different trips, but she bounced back to win the Group 3 Atalanta Stakes at Sandown last time out. And she probably is one of the lesser exposed horses in the field. Now, Amanda Perrott struck with Lavender's Blue, beating Ben Battle in the Group 2 Celebration Mile at Goodwood, and that one cannot be discounted. And Richard Fahey's Feb Rover, a horse we tipped at big odds when it was third each way in the 1,000 guineas, and most recently was a half-length second in the Group 2 at Leopardstown, is another who will go well if the ground is testing. But having looked at it from all different angles, I've come down on the side once again of No Speak Alexander, who I tipped to you when she won at 25-1, taking the Matron Stakes 3 weeks ago. I hope you were all on that day. So she owes us nothing, but I think she could be a bit of a Jeff Kidder for us, this filly. I think she can win again. Jessie Harrington trains, and Shane Foley is on board. That win was a tremendous effort at Leopardstown last time out, where she beat Pearls Galore and Mother Earth, who got caught in a bit of a pocket in behind her, and was probably done no favours by her as well inside the final furlong. But how many times have we seen horses that appear to have been unlucky in running and meeting their conqueror and backed off the boards to reverse placings, and they don't do it? I actually think that No Speak Alexander had a little more in the tank. She got no run previously, as I'd said earlier in September, when she was badly hampered in France on her previous start, so you could ignore that. But a very close third in the Irish 1,000 guineas on heavy ground behind Empress Josephine would suggest that if it does rain here, it could bring out even more improvement in her. She'd won a Group 3 earlier in the season on yielding to soft at the Curragh, and she hasn't been over-raced this term. So I think she'll be relatively fresh compared to some, and I think No Speak Alexander at 9-1 each way for 4 places, with the likes of William Hill, 888, Bet Victor, Betfred and Boyle Sports at the time of this recording, is going to give a very, very good account of herself in the Sun Chariot Stakes at Newmarket at 2:55 at 9-1. And then our 4th selection on Saturday is over at Redcar, where it's one of their big days of the year. And the 3:35 at the Cleveland track is the listed 2-year-old trophy, where often you get a huge field of 26, 27, 28 runners over the straight 6 furlongs. But this year, despite a very, very big prize fund, only 15 run, and I think that's really disappointing. I would have thought the sponsors will be, just wondering what's going on. The going forecast is good, but they will probably get some rain and it will ease. And they are forecast a lot of rain on Saturday. And that, of course, can be a huge factor, particularly with 2-year-olds, many of whom might not have tackled very testing ground, if ever, in their career. So the ground is a huge factor, particularly for the 2 forecast market leaders who are clear on the official figures. The first of them is Vintage Clarets for Richard Fahey, who was third, of course, in the Coventry Stakes Group 2 after winning a couple of races earlier in the term. He was 6th in a Newbury Sales race, and then was a 5-length 6 last time out at Ayr in a listed race on Good to Firm. Now, the thing about this horse is he's only ever really run on Good to Firm ground. I think he may have had 1 run on good, but essentially he's been campaigned on fast ground. Now, that does not mean that he won't handle soft, because he's never tackled it, so we don't know. But there has to be a feeling that Richard Fahey has targeted fast ground because he thinks that the way the horse trains and his actions suggest that he'll be suited by a sound surface, and he probably isn't going to get that on Saturday at Redcar. And it's a similar story for Chipotle, or Chipotle, however you pronounce it, for Eva Johnson-Horden, who's been a great servant to the yard, winning the Brocklesby on the opening day of the season at Doncaster, went on to win the Windsor Castle Stakes, the listed race for the 2-year-olds on Good to Firm ground at Royal Ascot, and then was a very good 9th in the Group 1 Nunthorpe Stakes against the older horses on Good to Firm ground, and a bit disappointing in the Flying Childers back against 2-year-olds when only 9th last time out. But the thing about Chipotle is that he's only ever run over 5 furlongs, and normally on quick ground. So 6 furlongs on soft ground at the end of a very hard season that started on the very first day of the term. I just couldn't be wading in, even though the figures suggest he has a major chance. Now, there are a few others you can give a chance to, despite them having something to find on ratings, such as Last Crusader for Carl Burke, who has to give £7 because of the terms of the sales conditions of the race to Vintage Clarets. He was 6th in the Gimcrack. Then you've got Symphony Perfect and Anadora, and also Mott the Messer, who have shown fair form and could improve. But my choice here is called MOJOMAKER. And this one trained by David Loughnan, who's having a wonderful breakthrough season in the bigger races this term. And the ultra-consistent jockey Pat Cosgrave will be on board. Now, MOJOMAKER is a £40,000 Memas colt. He ran a terrible race on debut. Something went completely wrong. He was a tailed-off last of 4 at Chester in the Lily Agnes Stakes earlier in the season. But then he left that behind when finishing 2nd on his 2nd start, just beaten half a length to a horse called Asymmetric in a Goodwood Novice Stakes over 6 furlongs. And of course, Asymmetric went on to win a Group 2. So that is absolutely hot form, especially in the context of this race. MOJOMAKER then won by 6 lengths at Sandown in the Novice Stakes in June, before finishing 2nd to the very useful Fearby in a listed race at Sandown. He ran 5th in the Group 3 Moulcombe Stakes on soft ground, note, at Glorious Goodwood, and that was after being bumped at the start and then hampered. And he stayed on in the closing stages to finish 5th. And then his latest run was when 5th of 20 in a 6-furlong York, very valuable sales race. And he ran a perfectly good race there. And I think the rain will help. And on that piece of form with Asymmetric, he has a proper chance. And because of that, I think each way 9-1, offered at the time of this recording with Bet365, is going to be good value. That's for 4 places. Shop around. He may drift on the day of the race because on the figures, he does have something to find. But I think he is better than his bare ratings suggest. So MOJOMAKER, each way Redcar, 4.35 is the last of my 4 on Saturday. Now, as a bit of a Brucey bonus, I normally only give you 4 races, but we can't overlook what's going on in France this weekend, where, of course, it is the world's greatest race, and you can keep your Dubai World Cup, you can keep your Breeders' Cup, you can keep that race in Saudi Arabia or anything in Australia or Japan. Longchamp and the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe is undoubtedly the world's best middle distance all-age race, and it is run on over 1.5 miles soft ground. We've seen some of the greatest races in history, none greater, of course, than Dancing Brave passing a hatful of Group 1 winners back in 1986, but great performances so many times. See the Stars, Trev in recent years, Enable, of course. The list goes on. And this year, as ever, the ground is going to be a big factor because it looks like Paris and Longchamp are in for a real old soaking. Now, the British, the Irish, and in fact the Japanese are dominating the betting, and it is hard to believe that the local side, the French, don't have a horse less than 20-1 in the market at the time of this recording, which is amazing, really. Now, Godolphin are coming here with a huge chance. They've got 2 Derby winners to throw at this. They've got Adea, who won at Epsom, of course, and then went on to win the King George. Tremendous horse. And they've got Hurricane Lane, who won the Irish Derby. Then he won in France in the Grand Prix de Paris on soft ground. And of course, he won the St. Leger a few weeks ago at Doncaster. He'll certainly stay. They'll both certainly stay. But are they going to be able to produce it? They've both been on the go a while. Who knows? Not many horses have come on to win the St. Leger and then the Arc. Adea maybe would be my preferred of the two, but I'm going against them. I've wondered all season whether Tanawa would win the Arc for Dermot Wells. She's joint favourite with many ferns. She won the Prix Vermeil over the course and distance last year. She won over 10 furlongs on heavy ground in the Prix de l'Opera. And then she went on to win the Breeders' Cup Turf on firm grounds, showing what an amazing filly she is. And most recently, she was second to St. Mark's Basilica in the Champion Stakes, and she was quite badly hampered by St. Mark's Basilica. It was a massive run. It gives her a huge chance. She'll go on the ground. She'll stay. She's going to be hard to beat. And you've got Aidan O'Brien with both Snowfall, who's won the English and Irish Oaks and the Yorkshire Oaks this season before, a little disappointing last time. And Love, who, of course, has been a great filly, but just doesn't seem to be quite running to the same level this season. Now, the Japanese have Chrono Genesis. They booked Ocean Murphy for this, a local superstar in Japan where they're nuts about racing. But all this one's form so far has really been on good or even firm ground. And while it is a very fine horse and finished second to Mishrif in the Shima Classic in Dubai in March, it'll be an amazing piece of training for it to win. It would be great for world racing if the Japanese won the Arc. They've gone so close on a number of occasions, but I'm against them. And my choice here is trained in France. And I've gone with RAABIHAH, who is trained by last year's winning trainer, Jean-Claude Rouget. Now, there's no one jocked up on the horse, but I'm assuming that Christian de Moro, who normally rides her, is going to be on board. Now, she's a 4-year-old filly by See the Stars, and she's from the family of Eswara, who won the Oaks, and Midway Lady, who also won the Oaks. So she's really bred in the purple to be a top-class 1.5 mile filly. Now, last year, RAABIHAH was second to Tanawa in the Prix Vermeil on good ground. Note that, on good ground. She was beaten 3 lengths. And then she went on to run in the Arc, and it was the only time she hasn't been ridden by Christian de Moro. And on that occasion, Maxime Guillon took the ride because de Moro was claimed to ride Sotsas. And Sotsas, of course, went on to win the Arc, beating Enable and the rest of them. So that's why de Moro wasn't on her that day. But Guillon was, and he didn't ride her so well, I don't think. Gave her far, far too much to do. He must have thought he was on Pegasus. But she did fly a bit in the closing stages. She passed quite a lot of horses, including Enable in the last 100 yards. She stayed on to finish 5th. She would have got a lot closer, I think, with her regular rider on board. I'm sure she would have been in the 3, but he couldn't ride 2 horses, obviously. Now, looking at this horse's campaign this season, it stands out a mile. She has been tailored for another crack at the Arc this season. She had a couple of runs over 10 furlongs, which is a bit short for her in the spring, finishing second on both occasions. Then she had a break, and then she had a little bit of a pipe opener over 9 furlongs, far too short for her, again finishing second on soft ground at Clairefontaine. But then last time out, they ran her over the right trip, 1.5 miles, and that was at Deauville in a grade 2, where she absolutely sluiced him. Try and take a look, try and find the video, and you'll see how easily she won. And what a lightning turn of foot she showed to go clear of some decent rivals. Now, just to recap, it is my view that RAABIHAH's ideal conditions are a mile and a half, a strong gallop, soft ground, and ideally with Christian de Moro on board. And I'm sure Jean-Claude Rouget, who won the race last year, has trained her solely for this race this year. And at 25-1 each way, she doesn't have to do the travelling that all the others do. She'll just be nipping up the road to take a chance. 4 places each way, 25-1. The more rain, the better, I would say, for RAABIHAH. And she's my selection to spring a surprise in the Arc. And remember, fillies have a very, very good record in the Arc, especially over the last decade. I think off the top of my head, about 6 have won the Arc in the last decade. So RAABIHAH it is. Let's see how she goes in the Arc on Sunday. I'm sure it'll be a great race with so many wonderful horses. And I'm sure those 4 that we're setting up for you on Saturday will also more than do themselves justice. So there we have it. Remember, if you're looking for shorter odds, to check me out at freebets.com over on the YouTube channel. But for now, from me, Paul Alster, for this first weekend selections in October, I'll say goodbye and wish you the very best of luck. Bye-bye for now.